Continuing on this sugya, but a very, very different sugya today, Be'ez Hashem, is I want to discuss a mitzvah, which is, again, something that we hope will never be negeya. We hope that we never have to use, but unfortunately we do. Omar Rav, says the Gemara, says the Gemara, but I said I want to explain this in a few different ways. The Gemara tells us that when a person is mavaker a choila, he's saved from the din of Gehenna, whatever that means. So we've been discussing until now a choila, and now maybe we understand a little bit of the hagdara of what exactly a choila is. On the flip side of things, we're not discussing Shabbos, we're discussing the entire week. It's a mitzvah that unfortunately I don't think many people realize, number one, the chashivas of it, and number two, the halachas that are negeya to that exact inyan. So, first of all, they bring from the Heilige Rebbe Akiva Eiger. Rebbe Akiva Eiger, I don't remember the number, but they say he used to give an astronomical amount of shiurim, just incredible amount of shiurim every single week, and he managed to accomplish so much within that week. But he was very makbid on the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. He was very mahadir in the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. In fact, whenever he heard that there was someone that he knew that was sick, or somebody was sick, he would gather together food and packages and go and greet them and meet them and sit with them and talk to them, whatever it was. Sometimes he would even sleep overnight by the choila. He would daven for them constantly. If he wasn't able to go himself, he would send a messenger, which we'll talk about. But that means that Rebbe Akiva Eiger understood how chashuv it is, Talmud Torah, especially Talmud Torah Derabim. But the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim was something that he held to be very, very great. In fact, there's a Murdiga Ben Ish Chai. Let me tell you this lashon of the Ben Ish Chai. The Ben Ish Chai tells us in the Ben Yoda. The Ben Ish Chai tells us, and he quotes the Gemara, that the Gemara tells us, Ben Gilo Notel Echod Mishishim B'Choilov. That means that if a person visits a sick person that is of the same Ben Giloi, that means he's born in the same time, it has the same various things that we're not going to go into now exactly how to describe that, but he takes away 1/60th of the illness. So the Ben Ish Chai says it cannot mean physically that the visitor of a sick person actually removes and takes away 1/60th of the sickness that person he is visiting. Al Pi Teva, says the Ben Ish Chai, it cannot be that way. Moreover, he says the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim is a mitzvah. Yakari says it's a very precious mitzvah. And he says, it cannot be, said the Ben Ish Chai, that a person has harm, even if it's on the slightest level of harm in this world, from visiting someone who's sick. It just cannot be that that's the case. Elamai, says the Ben Ish Chai, when a person visits a sick person, he gets a certain sar. He feels pain inside. Oh, never, this person's going through pain. This person is going through some situation over here, tsar, whatever it may be. And he feels that sar. And that sar, says the Ben Ish Chai, actually removes a little bit of sickness physically from the person he is visiting, because he actually gets tsar from visiting someone else, which is interesting, by the way. We'll have to talk about it, exactly what the halachas are, and if it's negeya. What if you don't see the choila? According to the Ben Ish Chai, it could be it's not negeya, okay? Now, let's start from the beginning, Rabbi. So that was a little bit of a hagdama. Let's start from the beginning. Where's the bakar? Where does it come from? Is it a deraisa? Is it a drabonon? Is it a nice thing to do? And how do we makar in the mitzvah in the best possible way? Like every mitzvah, we should understand, number one, where it comes from, how chashuv it is, and of course, what are the halachas in order to be yait to the mitzvah. So there's a pasuk in Devarim, Devarim Yud Gimel Hey. It means a person should always try to follow in the footsteps as much as possible of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Right? The Gemara in Soto Yudaladam and Aleph tells us, what does that mean? How do we describe and explain this pasuk? Says the Gemara, it means to go in the ways of the Rabbeinu Shalom. Ma HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bikkur Cholim Techsiv. And we know from Avram Avinu that the Rabbeinu Shalom was Mavakar Cholim. So the Gemara in Soto Yudalad, Af Ato Bikkur Cholim. So we see from here that it already comes from a shtikal pasuk. In order for a person to follow the ways of the Rabbeinu Shalom, the Rabbeinu Shalom is Mavakar Cholim. So if you want to follow Hashem's ways, go and be Mavakar Cholim. Says the Gemara in Bab Metzia, Daf Lamed Amud Beis. He brings a pasuk. Vaydaton Mesaderech Asher Yelchu Zut. The Gemara in Bab Metzia, Daf Lamed Amud Beis. Zeu Bikkur Cholim. Sounds like to be Mavakar Cholim is a do'araisa. Comes from a pasuk. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. There's a Gemara in Nidorim, Daf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, where the Gemara says, Remez lebikkur cholim min hatoyres, is the lashon of the Gemara in Nidorim, Daf Lamed Tes Amud Beis, and he brings the pasuk. So the kasha is it a doraisa or is it a derabanan? What is the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim? So the Rambam, and you should just know before we start with the Rambam, many Rishonim hold that Bikkur Cholim is a doraisa. The Bahag holds this way, the Smak holds this way, the Ureim holds this way. Right? Kama Shitas in the Rishonim. Bikkur Cholim is a mitzvah min haTorah. We have psukim for it. Okay? The Rambam says not that way. The Rambam says mitzvah sasei medivrei soifrim. The Meiri in the Dorim paskins that way. We say remez min haTorah in the Gemara. We know that from a Masechtas Makos also. It means halacha the Moshe Sinai. It means we're dealing with a very choshev d'Rabbanan, but it's not a d'oraisa. In fact, the Rambam writes in Sefer Mitzvahs that Bikkur Cholim is actually included in V'ahavta L'Reacha Kamoicha. The Aruch HaShulchan points out that the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim is mitzvahs hayoyse gedolos, Moish. That's the lashon of the Aruch HaShulchan. How important it is to be Bikkur Cholim, ha-mitzvahs, ha-yoyse gedolos, vu mitvam shoicha bereseim b'adam hazeh v'keren kemes on mabah, as we said, quoting from the Mishnah, obviously in Peah, as we said from the Ben Ish Chai. What a gewaldige Sache it is, says the Chofetz Chaim, in Sefer Avos Chesed, in Perek Gimel, says the Chofetz Chaim, the mikvah Bikkur Cholim is included in Gemilas Chasodim. You're raising his spirits and making him feel good. Gemilas Chasodim, Asher Tzvi, yeah? Gewaldig. So the question obviously is, if it's such a beautiful, gewaldige, amazing, beautiful mitzvah, why is there no bracha? We have brachas for many mitzvahs. Why is there no bracha? We're about to visit the sick person. You make avada, versteht sich, mikveh and gartel, and after that, bracha. No, mach a bracha. You're making a mitzvah. Like every other mitzvah, you make a bracha. You make a bracha that lokas haneris of Chanukah. You make a bracha around a million mitzvahs that we have. So what's pshat over here? We don't make a mitzvah, as far as we know, for Bikkur Cholim. So there's a famous Rashba, a few answers. Famous Rashba. The Rashba says, Tshuvas Chelek Aleph, Siman Yud Ches. He says, you know why? Because it's a mitzvah that can be bottled. In other words, you could get to the Cholah and he doesn't want to see you. He doesn't want to see anyone, he's not in the mood right now. Right? That's the case with the Rashba. Imagine, there you are, you made a bracha, Baruch Ato, Imam you got there, Gavaldik, I'm ready to go. I go there and he's like, no, we're not seeing any visitors. Hefsuk, what am I going to do? Right? So the Rashba, that's why you can't make a bracha. Can't make a bracha. As I stated in the Rashba, right? The kash on the Rashba is many, which we're not going to go into at this moment of time. There's another teretz, the Oizarua. The Oizarua says, a gavaldige teretz, what's the pshat you can't make a bracha? Lashon of the Oizarua is because it's a bracha, you're making a bracha on something that's chayeves by todeh. There's always going to be sick people. You're never going to be potter from it. When are you going to make the bracha? When you visit him? But what about him? What about him? There's a million sick people, unfortunately, lo aleinu lo aleichem in the world. Mimela, according to that, how can you make a bracha on something that you're always obligated to do at all times? In fact, by the way, the Magen Avram, in Orach Chaim Kuvav Sidalit, brings down, that's why we don't make a bracha on tefillah. He brings from the Avudram. The reason we don't make a bracha on tefillah because you chayv tefillah the whole time. You always have to talk to Hashem. So how can now, yeah, and in 10 minutes not? So that's the Magen Avram says from the Abu Juram, that's why we don't make a bracha on tefillah. So it's the same idea, says the Oizarua. The Ravid says the reason is why you can't make a bracha, it's like you're being moed on the kilkul. This guy's never sick and you're excited to make a bracha. Simchas HaMitzvah. You're so excited you run into that hospital room. Shkoyach for allowing me to do this mitzvah. Let me make a bracha on you. How's that sound? It's not geschmack, right? As I state in Ravid, that's the reason why we don't make a bracha. And then there's a Rabbeinu Bachya, where he brings down, you look this up, B'mitzvah Tezvav Lamed Ches. You can't make a bracha on something which is so poshut, it's so understandable even to a goy, Rabbeinu Bachaya, and therefore even goyim do it, then how on earth can you make a bracha? Good, many kashas the oilam probably want to ask, I can make a bracha on Tilis Yotayim. Okay, lots of different kashas, we're not going to go into that. What I want to describe is two things. We'll take questions later because I want to go through to our halachas very quickly. Okay? I don't believe many people know the actual halachas of being Bikkur Cholim. Moish. People think you walk inside, Bikkur Cholim. It's a wonderful thing to do. So I want to tell you there are two reasons why we do Bikkur Cholim. And it's important to know these reasons in order to become the mitzvah, of course. Reason number one is to daven for the Cholah. Reason number two is to see if he needs anything. Those are the two reasons why we should do Bikkur Cholim. Let's start number one. to daven for the choila. Gemara in the Dome, everybody knows, Daf Mem Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Kol ha-mavake es ha-choila, this is the Gemara, Mavakish olav rachamim sheyichya, v'chol mi she'eina mavake es ha-choila, eina mavakish olav rachamim. It's a mashma from the Gemara, that only when you go and visit the sick person, that's when you daven for him. Because you see what's going on. You see what he needs. You see the matzav. You see how terrible it may be. Oy vavoy, I have to daven. Gemara says in Mefurish, if you're mavaka the choila, you daven. If you don't, you're not going to be davening. That's what it is. In fact, the Ramban in Sefer Torah Sa'odom brings down Hilchot Kol HaMavaka Es HaChoila V'loi Bikkur Cholim Rachamim Lo Kiyem Es HaMitzvah. You hear this? Lashon Ramban. That if you're mavaka the choila, one of the guys upstairs is sick, Rahman Litzlan, so you go upstairs to visit him. I'm doing the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. You walk in, how you doing? Everything okay? And you walk out. Did you daven? Said the Ramban, you're not Yaitza. You didn't daven for him. The Gemara says you have to mavaka cholim in order to daven. If you're not davening, and again, davening doesn't have to mean you make a whole yom tefillah. It means you ask the Rabbeinu Shalom, like tefillah. You talk to the Rabbeinu Shalom whenever you need him, and you ask him to help this person that he should have a refuah shalema from whatever it may be. Right? That's over there, Rabbi say. Let's move on to the next part. Why? It's another reason why we do Bikkur Cholim is to see if he needs anything. That's the other thing, right? This, the Aruch HaShulchan, by the way, in Hilchos Bikkur Cholim, discusses it, and he says, V'zeu ikka mitzvahs Bikkur Cholim. The ikka mitzvah is to see, what does he need? Does he need anything, right? Where's the makar? It's a Gemara in the Dome, Daf Mem Amud Aleph. The Gemara tells us that when one of the Talmidim of Rabbi Kiva was sick, Rabbi Kiva went in to visit him, and he organized the room. He cleaned the room of his Talmud. And his Talmud said, Rebbe, you gave me life. Zuk the Gemara, Rabbi Kiva went outside the room, into the street, and he said, Kol she'einu mavakes ha'choila ki'ilu shoifech domim. If you're not mavakes ha'choila, Zuk the Gemara, Rabbi Kiva tells us, ki'ilu shoifech domim. What did Rabbi Kiva do? Was he a doctor? He gave him medication? What did he do? He didn't do anything. He organized the room, he cleaned the room. He wanted to make sure he needed anything. Look there, you see from here the Ikka, the Aruch HaShulchan. You see that the Ikka mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim Ephraim is this. Is in order to go and make sure that he has what he needs to organize the situation. So the question the poskim ask, and all the poskim are busy with this, Eli. What happens if you want him Bikkur Cholim on the phone? Are you Yaitza? You could say I'm listening to him, so maybe the first chat maybe goes in. But if I can't organize the room, maybe you can ask him on the phone, do you need anything? Maybe that's how it works. So without going into all the details of the poskim basically say that no, you're not really Yaitza Bikkur Cholim if you're not actually there, present, personally, physically in the room. Of course, if you cannot visit him, either because it's too far away or for whatever reason the hospital won't let you in, all sorts of reasons, then of course you should pick him up on the phone. The Minchas Yitzchak talks about a phone with a screen. Then Avada, you could be Yotza because you can actually see him. By seeing him, there's more of a reason that you'll probably daven for him, maybe even ask him what he needs depending on the situation over there. What if he's sleeping? What if you get there and the guy's sleeping? So I went to be Mekayim the mitzvah, the guy's sleeping. What do? Listen to this Lashon of the Rosh. The Rosh brings down, by the way, this is a Rosh ala Torah and Parshas Vayetze. The Rosh brings down that the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim is even if you don't speak to him and he doesn't hear you, nothing. Just watching him and seeing him, you find him sleeping, Zuk the Rosh, Avada and Avada, that's good enough in that case over there. If you cannot do it, can you do it al piyah shliach? So they bring down for many Gedolim, they bring for Rabbi Kiva Eiger, as I mentioned in the beginning. Rabbi Kiva Eiger one time, there were too many shurim going on, so he couldn't go, so he sent a shliach, right? They bring also Avodas Van Hogas LaBeis Brisk, that Reb Chaim of Brisk also appointed a shliach to go and do Bikkur Cholim in that case, because he couldn't do it himself over there. Right? There is a she'iltis, by the way, from Rav Achai Goin that says to be mashma that a person should dafka mekayim the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim not by himself, but also with other people, as is muvah also in the Orchos Chaim and the Torah Shloimeh as well, and in Gilin HaShas. He tells us the reason is because more people make the Cholah happy in that case. Okay? What happens? When is the best time for a person to go? So the Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Bikkur Cholim says you should know that the first 3 hours of the day the illness is lighter, and therefore when you walk in you're going to see him he's okay. You're not going to daven for him as much. So it says the Shulchan Aruch you shouldn't go the first 3 hours of the day, and you also shouldn't go the last 3 hours of the day. Why shouldn't you go the last 3 hours of the day? Because the last 3 hours the illness is much worse, and therefore you're just going to give up and say, oh he's so bad, there's no point even davening for him. Says the Shulchan Aruch that's why you shouldn't go the first 3 hours, halachic hours, and the last 3 hours of the day. Now Lemaisa the Aruch HaShulchan said it's not an Issa. It's just the Eitz Tova. If you happen to be able to go then, or he needs you then, or he wants you then, or these are visiting hours, then Avada, that's what a person should do in that case. What about a Saina? What about someone that you hate? Is the Indian to go and visit someone that you hate? So the Moshe brings down at the beginning of the Simon and Hilchos Bikkur Cholim, he brings from the Maril, as he normally does, that he says a person is allowed to visit someone that he hates, but the Ramah himself doesn't like the rise of the Maril and says no. Ramah says it's also to visit someone that you hate. And as I was passing the Psak Halacha Lamaisa of the Ramah, they're allowed to do that. Says the Aruch HaShulchan, yeah, it depends how much you hate the guy. That's what it really does. It mamish depends. In fact, there was a Maisa here in Yerushalayim with someone, one of the big Gedolim, who was sick, and one of the other Gedolim in Yerushalayim that used to speak mamish sharp against him. He was cholik on his psakim. He put him in chayrim. He mamish spoke badly about him. He wanted to go visit him, but he wasn't sure, is it the right thing to do? Like maybe who knows what's going to happen when I walk in. I don't want to be responsible for that. So he asked the doctor, what do I do? And the doctor says, no, forget. If you come, I think Lamaisa, he'll enjoy it. He'll be very happy. Lamaisa, the truth is, he came inside and he saw the heart machine that was Gavaldik. The guy all of a sudden got very, very happy, got very excited. He got, wow, the person that hates me, that speaks about, not hated him, but spoke about his psakim and put him in chayrim and held he was wrong in all sorts of ways, actually came to visit me. He got a tremendous chizik from that. I'm not going to go now into the sugya of men and women and all these sorts of things visiting each other, because that's not Nageya at this moment of time, but it is Nageya to the following. The Gemara tells us in the Dorim, don't visit someone that has a stomach problem. Someone's got an eye problem. Someone's got a problem with his head. Obviously a bad headache or a migraine, something like that. Why not? Because someone that's got a stomach problem, he's going to be embarrassed to say, I need to go to the bathroom. And therefore he's not going to say that when you're visiting him, and therefore don't visit him. Someone's got a head problem or something similar to that. It's hard for him to speak, and by visiting him, you are causing him to do that. So what's the Eitzah? I want to visit the guy. I want to make the Gavaldige mitzvah. But what can I do? At the end of the day, I'm not supposed to, right? Obviously, again, you have to know the situation to know that that's taka the case. If you know it's going to help him and he wants it and he's not having a hard time and he can go to the bathroom, whatever, then obviously there's no problem with that. Just go outside the bedroom. Just go outside the room. Look at him. That's also, you'll daven for him. You'll see mamish if he needs something. Maybe you won't be able to ask him, but you can ask those people around him in that case over there. Rabbi Sai, we end with one last thing, and that is, we have to realize that unfortunately people think that Bikkur Cholim, there's people in the hospital that deal with it, there's askonim, there's family members, they don't need me, I can't do anything, I'm not going to be of help, I'm not going to be of any good. And it's a big mistake, because a person should realize that, first of all, when a person has people visiting him in the hospital, this is a known and proven fact that the more visitors that come and visit someone, even in hospital, and again we're talking about Bikkur Cholim, could even be in someone's house, in someone's bedroom, but especially in a hospital where people are sometimes given up on, and the goyim sometimes see, nobody cares about this guy, who knows what could happen. By visiting them, and this has been proven, that the hospitals see that people are constantly coming, they're constantly looking at this guy, I can't leave this guy alone. I have to see if he needs something. I have to make sure we treat him well. So Mamela, a person has to be careful. The Lashon of the Rosh, and we'll end with this in the Durham Daf Mem Amud Aleph, says, V'zeu ra gedoyla is Lashon HaRosh. Shim hoya mavakoy mavakish olav rachamim. Again, we don't maybe appreciate the koich about tefillah, that if we see a choyle, it doesn't have to be someone so bad, even someone that needs a bit of a refuah shalema, we'll daven for him. And if we do not go Bikkur Cholim, we will not have the same intensity of tefillah. And therefore the Rabbeinu Shalom would have taken your tefillah and you would have caused a prevention of so many good things. Rabbi said we should have, number one, of course, a gavaldiga betochen in our tefillahs, but of course we should not be nageya, we should visit no one, because there should be no choyle Be'ez Hashem in Klal Yisrael. But if there is, it's a gavaldiga mitzvah for a person to know and be mekayim Be'ez Hashem.